evening to you and a very warm welcome to Beyond the Vision, brought to you by the Buddhist channel. And of course, as usual, we always bring you the essence of Lord Buddha's teaching. And last week we were discussing about Kamma and Vipaka, the law of cause and effect. And this week we would be moving on to another very interesting topic, which regarding rebirth. And Lord Buddha has explained that we are a result of our thoughts and actions, and we would be applying this into the context of Buddhism, and we will see how rebirth occurs, what is the cause of rebirth, and what Lord Buddha has explained to us. And today I'd like to warmly welcome, and my most veneration goes to Dr. Venerable Mirise Dhammika Thera and Mr. Raja Kurupu for joining our program. A very good evening to you, sir, as well. So as actually when we consider the society, we have seen people say that I've met this person, I feel like I've met this person in my life. I feel like I've seen this person somewhere in my life. And sometimes people say, these are my parents who have been coming throughout samsara. So this connection happens to be within the people in the society. So this is how actually rebirth is linking to Buddhism. So I would like to first of all ask our Venerable Sir, what is a rebirth and how can it be linked to Buddhism, and what is the concept of rebirth in terms of Buddhism, sir?
First of all, I would like to wish everyone to be well, happy and peaceful by the blessings of the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, Mr. Raja Kurup and Miss Buddhima. Dear Dhamma friends and devotees, it's a very good question already you asked your daughter. The Buddha explained very clearly in Asa Sutra, it comes in Sanyutta Nikaya, Anamataggo yam bhikkave sansaro kotina panyayati, avidya nivarananang sattanang tanha sanyojananang sandhavatan sansaratan digarattang o bhikkave dukkam paccana. O bhikkhus, you have been suffered a lot throughout of this sansaric journey. It is very hard to find the origin of this sansaric journey. Because of craving or tanha, you have been suffered a lot. Digarattang o bhikkave dukkam paccana. When we think about this sentence came from Buddha's mouth, of course, actually, automatically it comes to our mind, oh, we have been suffered a lot in our previous lives. That means in this sansaric journey. The sansara means here the circle of death and birth. We have been suffered a lot in our previous lives. When we talk about this, somebody would ask you, how come you are going to say like that? Can you give any examples about that? There are lots of questions that automatically come into our mind and to other people's mind. We have lots of venerations towards the Buddha, because the Buddha practiced 10 perfections, dana, sila, so on and so forth, in his previous lives as Bodhisattva. Throughout of his own experiences, life experiences as Bodhisattva, he already enlightened, got enlightenment. On his own enlightenment, we call as Samma Sambuddha. And then he explained, we got to know how about the all beings have suffered in their sansaric journey through his divine eye, divine ear, also his knowledge of other beings' past lives, also his own lives. He got to know everything. He had that kind of knowledge. With this knowledge, he already explained how about the sansaric journey. All beings have been suffered a lot. And with this explanation, and then we have to think about, oh, me too. And then even my dear parents and brothers and sisters and everybody, has suffered a lot in this sansaric journey. Daughter, when you explain before starting this Dhamma discussion, you explain something about, we have met each other. Sometimes when we meet with our parents, we have kind of feelings whether we have been together from our sansaric journey, why we came together like this. Also, when we have been somewhere else, sometimes we feel, one day we have, met each other. I have kind of feelings, I have kind of feelings in my thoughts. Of course, we have met each other, but I feel this is the first time we met each other. But I have kind of feelings in my thoughts. And then, we feel we had past lives. So that's a kind of, connection to this life. It is coming from our previous lives. And then the Buddha explained, it's very hard to find someone who have not been, met each other, like our mother or father or daughter or son or brother or sister. Everybody has, met each other. It doesn't matter which language you are going to speak about. It doesn't matter which skin color you are going to hold, which background you are coming from. It doesn't matter. Sometimes we have met each other in our previous lives. So that's why, and then automatically we feel, of course, rebirth is there. The concept of rebirth is there. Sometimes we feel we are so close. We are so close. Sometimes we are not in our same family. We are not brothers or sisters in the same family. But still we feel we are so close each other with our concepts, thoughts, and behavior. I think, according to the Buddha's noble teachings, this is the kind of linking. Just we have to think about or talk about what is rebirth, right?
Exactly, Venerable Sir. So actually, when talking about Lord Buddha's teachings, we know that karma is of great significance, because that is the thing actually that gives rise to rebirth. Because if we cultivate and if we do good deeds, that give rise to wholesome results, and of course bad deeds would give rise to unwholesome results. So talking about the significance of karma in terms of rebirths, if I may ask you.
Venerable Sir and Buddhima, you mentioned connection between the law of karma, the law of cause and effect, action and reaction, and the doctrine of rebirth. They are very closely linked, and they are very two important aspects of the Dhamma. Really, the Dhamma cannot exist without those two factors coming into play. Now, with regard to the law of karma, it is quite obvious that under that law, what is stated is that our wholesome actions lead to pleasant results and unwholesome actions lead to unpleasant results. If there is no rebirth, then there is a fallacy in this law of karma. Because we see in society many people who lead very unwholesome, cruel lives, prospering in this life. And that is permitted under the law of karma, because that is their previous good wholesome karma they are enjoying at the moment. But they will have to pay for their unwholesome actions either in this life in the future or in future lives. So they are both very closely connected. And the law of karma cannot exist without the doctrine of rebirth. Now, Venerable Sir, you mentioned about the length of samsara, the cycle of births and deaths, with all its unsatisfactory features. You use the term dukkha, which is generally translated not as suffering, because there is happy moments in life also. There are plenty of happy moments. But these are unsatisfactory for the reason that those are impermanent. They are not of a lasting nature. And sometimes the satisfactory situation yields to unsatisfactory results later on. So for that reason we have dukkha. Now, Venerable Sir, you were mentioning about the length of samsara, and you were saying that most of us that we meet have been in the long journey through samsara. We might have been very close relatives, father and mother, brother and sister, son and daughter. That was an indication that the Buddha gave how long this samsaric journey is. Inconceivable. The beginning is inconceivable. So, For that reason, he said that getting away from samsara is our goal, with samsara with all its unsatisfactory features.
Exactly, sir. Actually, with that, I would like to bring forward this question. Now, Lord Buddha explains the law of cause and effect in 3 different levels. That is, Chatuarya Satcha, the Paticca Samuppada, and finally in Pattanaya. So, talking about Paticca Samuppada, the law of dependent origination, it starts off with Avijja Paccaya Sankhara. And people have this misguided belief sometimes, Venerable Sir. They think that Avijja is the first cause, but actually samsara is beginningless. So, if you would give an explanation to this, Venerable Sir.
Actually, the Buddha never mentioned the origination of this samsara. When we talk about Paticca Samuppada or dependent origination, I would like to put this word for Paticca Samuppada, interdependent origination. Anyway, when we talk about dependent origination, the avidya or ignorance is one of links of this circle. Paticca Samuppada or dependent origination, but it's not the first cause, or it's not the first origin or origination, but we have to start with some link. So that's why the Buddha start with avidya paccaya sankhara. Ignorance causes for sankhara, avidya paccaya sankhara, I mean for mental formation. With our bodily actions, and then with our verbal actions, and with our thoughts, right? We call as sankhara, karma or cause and effect. But the Buddha never talk about the origin of this samsara. Once the Venerable Moggallana tried to find out the origin of this samsara, but he couldn't, because he own knowledge, very powerful knowledge, his irdi, I mean he was the chief attendant in this knowledge, and after the Buddha, he tried to find the origin of this samsara, but he couldn't. Still, just he was finding at that time, the Buddha asked him to not to find. That means just we are going to, just in vain, we are going to waste our time, rather than just finding the truth, how to get out of this samsaric journey, right? Therefore, ignorance or avidya is a kind of just a starting point. How we are going to get rid of this samsaric journey with the having of knowledge of this relinking or rebirth concepts. There are 12 links, right, according to Paticca Samuppada. And then we have to start with this point, that means ignorance.
Exactly, Venerable Sir. Now, with that, actually, Buddhism explains that there is no soul or there is no self. But in that case, what actually takes rebirth, so if I may ask you? Now, that is also a concept that we should actually talk when considering about rebirth. So, what takes the rebirth if there is no self in the terms of Buddhism?
Yes, if what is not there is a permanent, unchanging, eternal self. That is not there. That is the doctrine of anatta, a unique contribution of Buddhism to philosophy and religion. No other religion has that. Not even Hinduism, which is closely related to Buddhism. Now, Venerable Sir, Hinduism is also one religion that also speaks of the samsara. They accept the fact of rebirth. So, in that sense, we are close to Hinduism than to other religions, where it is said that after death, there is one life, either in heaven or in hell. But Hinduism also accepts this aspect of, but there are differences thereafter. Now, you are asking about what passes from one life to another. Now, of course, at the time of death, as we all know, the physical body comes to an end. It perishes. But the mind, the mental factor, the flow of thoughts does not come to an end at that point. It continues. And how does it continue? The last thought of this life is followed by the first thought in the new life. In the womb of a mother, if you are going to be born as a human being. Now there, when the first thoughts emerge, there is a connection. There is no interruption. And there is a very interesting made by the Buddha, because when he was asked, now supposing you are born in a very distant place, will there be how long will it take? In contrast, to if you are born in a place which is close to the place of death. And the Buddha's explanation was, how long do you take to think of the distant place? And how long do you take to think of the close place? And the answer was obviously, it's the same time. So it is instantaneous. There is no gap between the two. It's a continuing flow of thoughts. So now if you ask the question, what is the connection, relationship between the person who has died and the person who is born? It is very well explained under the term nacha so nacha anno, Venerable Sir.
It's a common experience.
Very common explanation. Of course, they are not the words of the Buddha. They are the words of Venerable Nagasena in reply to questions by King Milinda. Yeah. But I think he sums it up very well, because the human being or any living being is changing all the time, from moment to moment, physical body, mentally, your character, all that is changing. So therefore, you can't say it is the same person. At the same time, you can't say it is a totally different person also. Sometimes, Venerable Sir, it is also compared to a child grown to be an adult. Now the adult is not the child, but there is a connection between the child and the adult. Unlike the adult and another child, the connection is there. So that is why how it is explained in the Dhamma about the passing away and being reborn.
Exactly,
even
sir.
in Milindam Panya, Milinda Prasna Nagasena, Venerable Nagasena was explaining, taking simile with echo and reflection on mirror, also lights. Can you remember about the simile of flame? The Venerable Nagasena was explaining to King Milinda, there are two, say, just candles. One is going to light, with this candle from this candle. I mean, there's a candle, someone is going to light this candle from this candle. But no one say the old flame is here or something is new when we think about. But this light's already lit. But there's a connection. See, Dr. Buddhima, when you go to in front of a mirror, you can see your picture on that mirror. But of course, completely you are there on that mirror. But do you think almost actually you are in the mirror? It's not. But your reflection on that. Like that, right? Throughout our life, whatever we do, whatever we think, whatever we express from our mouth, it's like, if I'm going to give kind of examples, kind of records, records are there in our consciousness. We call as, Bhavanga Chitta, right? And then, according to this Bhavanga Chitta, right, when we come into the close of our life, that means when we are on our deathbed, this consciousness comes up and then gives some lights, towards that next life. Later on, we have to discuss about, according to that theory. Yes, therefore, there's a kind of relinking. It is not just we are going to talk about the same person. Nacha so, nacha anyo is a common explanation. This is not an old person, no, this is not a, new person. But there is a link or there's a connection. It's like, the light, flame or the other, the examples of our picture or our figure on the mirror.
Exactly, Venerable. And actually with that I would like to remind Lord Buddha has explained Trilakkhana, three characteristics in the Dhamma, actually the Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta. So with that, Venerable Sir, if I may ask you now, the society does not realize to see the things as they are. They always go towards the materialistic attainment rather than realizing what the spiritual gainment has to be, and this is why we get so much of problems and disputes among the people in the society. So what is the kind of explanation you can give towards it when considering about the samsaric journey that we are going through?
Yes, Dr. Buddhima, is a good question regarding of this modern society. people used to call this society is hectic. It's very, hectic society. People used to say, we are so busy. With this, explanation, sometimes people don't know what to do, what to react towards other people's. When you ask this question, automatically some thoughts come into mind. Of course, the Buddha explained, we had previous lives. If you are not going to get enlightenment within this life, definitely we are going to reborn, right? And then what we are supposed to do, when you are going to live in this society, at least as a human, just think about it like that. At least being a human, you have to follow a good life. Because sabbe sankhara anicchati, transient are all component things. As you explain, according to 3 characteristics of anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanence, and dukkha, just we put lots of words according to this society, suffering, unsatisfactoriness, and stress, distress, mistress, and there are lots of the words. In fact, of this word of with this word of dukkha. Anyway, impermanence and unsatisfactoriness and no self-concept, anicca, dukkha, anatta. If we have, lives, we had previous lives, also we are going to have, next life or next lives according to this samsaric journey. Why you are not going to think about this journey? Definitely, if you are going to violate rules or precepts according to Buddhism, definitely you are going to reborn in one of hells. Therefore, by knowing this, also by knowing the concept of rebirth, you have to protect this life, because kiccho manussa patilabo, being human is so rare. Becoming a human is so rare. By knowing this truth, you don't want to give up this, very important, noble life, becoming a human, right? If you are going to miss this life, that means you are going to reborn in one of hells. It's very hard to escape from one of hells because of your own karma, what you have violated as a human. Therefore, by knowing this concept of rebirth, you have to accumulate lots of meritorious deeds, or you have to follow lots of wholesome thoughts. On the other hand, you may able to reduce your craving, your desires. If you are going to put some, goals, or we are going to put a goal as our ultimate goal as Nibbana, definitely we have to eliminate all kind of desires. That means we are going to, at the very beginning, we have to suppress our craving, and then slowly we have to reduce our desires. Finally, we have to eliminate, or we have to destroy all kind of our desires. That's our ultimate goal. But when we live in this society, to be a virtuous monk, I have to follow a virtuous life as a monk. To be a virtuous mother, to be a virtuous father, to be a virtuous or husband, or at least to be a virtuous person, just you have to follow good deeds or wholesome activities or wholesome deeds. Otherwise, you may lose this very important human life. Definitely, next life you are going to, be a, you are going to reborn in a bad place. That means you are losing your this noble human life.
Exactly, Venerable Sir. Actually, this is the time, it's high time that people should understand the value of the human life, because they should know that we are very much fortunate to be born as human beings, and we should realize that we are very much lucky to be born as human beings, and we should do good deeds and cultivate good actions and try and realize the ultimate goal, the ultimate supreme reality, which is Nibbana, because the golden path is laid before us. So what we need to do is we need to take this path, we need to go walking in this path and try to realize the ultimate reality. So actually, now as Venerable Sir mentioned, consciousness is something that continues. But Sir, if I may ask you, at the point of realization of the ultimate reality or the supreme bliss nirvana, what happens to this consciousness which actually continues in samsara?
Before answering your question, I like to respond to some of the comments made by Venerable Sir. Now, you mentioned, Venerable Bhikkhu, that about the passing from one life to another, and you compared with lighting a candle with another candle, lighting a candle with a candle that is already lit. There's an example also given, what passes from one life to another, and that is the energy, the karmic energy. And sometimes it is compared, Venerable Sir, to the playing of billiards. In billiards, you with a stick hit one ball. That ball goes and knocks on another ball and goes forward. Now, we can't say anything passes from one ball to another, but it is the force generated by one ball which had been pushed by a stick that makes the other ball start to move. So, that is another good way of putting it, that energy is the thing that passes, the karmic energy. That is why it is said, Buddhima, that when the mother and father gets together, this coming together of the sperm and the ovum alone will not result in an issue. For that to result in an issue, the karmic force from the past has also to join. These three factors have to join. And it is explained in the Dhamma that man consists of both body and mind. So, two physical factors can't do life. A mental factor also has to come in, and the mental factor is the karmic energy that comes from the past. Now, Venerable Sir, you were also mentioning about the sufferings that we have to undergo in samsara, and Buddhima, you were mentioning also about the rare opportunity we have as humans to go along the Noble Eightfold Path. Now, this is of course, as Venerable Sir pointed out, it's a great fortune that we have been born as human beings, because if we take the people with whom we associate, we see that the numbers of animals far exceed the number of humans. Even in our own home, maybe in a home there will be 4 or 5 people, humans. But how many other lives are there? There are ants, there are geckos, there are mosquitoes, there are so many, and ants are by the hundreds sometimes, they are all together. So, this is a rare thing that we have had. So, we have to make the best use of the opportunity that we have. Now, Venerable Sir, you were mentioning also of the sansaric journey and overcoming the sansaric journey. From that angle, when we look, Venerable Sir, the task that a Buddhist face is much more difficult than the task faced by those who follow other religions. If they lead a normally good life in the balance, more wholesome actions rather than unwholesome actions, then I mean they are supposed to end up in heaven. But in our case, just leading a good ethical life alone will not suffice for us to realize the Buddhist goal of Nibbana, to put an end to our continuation in samsara. Now, Buddhima, you are asking the question, why, what happens to this consciousness when you realize Nibbana? When you realize Nibbana, Buddhima, firstly you continue to live. You realize the truth and you continue to live your lifespan, whatever that is. So, in that case, you are, of course, you are largely freed from dukkha. I won't say even largely, Venerable Sir, I might say you are completely freed from dukkha. Why? Because even if you have certain other suffering, like physical pain and so on, the mental pain does not come into the picture, because you are at a certain level of mental development that you are unaffected by these ups and downs of other material things. And therefore, you are in a very happy position. Your upekka or equanimity is perfect. Now, what happens to you at the point of death is, you don't crave for life. As I think you mentioned, Venerable Sir, that at the moment of death there is a craving to be born again, because you want to continue in this. But when you don't want to continue, when you know the sufferings that you have to go through and you are sort of more or less disgusted with life, then there is the urge to have another birth does not arise, and then that is the end. Of course, it is difficult to explain what Nibbana is because it is something to be experienced. You can give in general terms, correct me if I am wrong, Venerable Sir, but otherwise you have to experience, and it is said that if you have come to the level of a Sovan, the first stage of sainthood, then you might get some kind of a glimpse of what Nibbana is, and as you proceed to Sakadagami and Anagami, you will get a better picture of what Nibbana is.
I have to explain something. I mean, Mr. Raja Kurupu mentioned something about other people, those who are following religions, who can't understand what we are putting some goals about rebirth and then Nibbana. I have a kind of very simple experience, Mr. Raja Kurupu and Dr. Buddhima. I used to visit cancer hospital at Maharagama. Sometimes some young patients, maybe who are in my half of age, maybe, sometimes 17, 18 years old. Sometimes they used to ask me, Venerable Sir, bless us not to come again to this world. We don't want to suffer like this. We don't want to come back into this world. Venerable, please wish us not to come back again. It's like someone is going to cut our flesh with a sharp knife. Venerable Sir, we can't bear up, Venerable Sir. Please bless us. Please wish us not to come back this world to suffer like this, Venerable Sir. And then it's very clear, they have no any idea about this, past lives or about dukkha, this time, this point. Only thing is they are having lots of pains and sorrows, within their body. So that's why they used to ask this question, right? And then it's very clear, if he able to realize the real nature of this sansaric journey, I think no one is going to continue this life just thinking, oh, it's so happy like this. Of course, conventionally, we have to follow happy life, of course. So that's why there are precepts. There are a lot, for lay people, there are 5 precepts. You can continue your happy life. Also, you can get married like lay people, and then you may have, children and kids, and then continue your life, but should be peaceful and then rightful. But remember, keep some thoughts in your mind. Transient are all component things, right? Though you are going to call your wife or husband or whoever loved ones, you are in my life, but still remember, though you are not belongs to you, one day you have to leave your own body here and then to go. And then how come you are going to call your loved ones or whoever, I love you, I like you, forever I'm going to be in your life? How come? Of course, conventionally you would say, but still, remember, everything is impermanent. By knowing this truth, only thing is just we have to follow a virtuous life, being noble human being.
True enough, Venerable Sir. Actually, now when we consider our life, we do have certain objectives, as Venerable Sir mentioned. We do have certain goals to reach in life, but still we have this particular ultimate reality, or the ultimate goal, or the ultimate main objective that we need to reach. So that has to be remembered while reaching the other objectives in life. Actually, Venerable Sir, with that I would like to ask you, now life continues, and as you mentioned earlier, Patisandhi Chitta is the very first Chitta, that's the rebirth linking Chitta, and thereafter Bhavanga continues, that's the life continuity, and finally we come to Chuti Chitta, or the Maranasana Chitta, the very last Chitta that determines where we are going to be born in the next life. So what is the significance of this particular Chitta, the Maranasana Chitta with itself, the whole thought process, if we take into account?
According to our tradition, we used to explain Chuti Chitta or Maranasana Chitta is very important. Just let me explain like this, say, when we think about a human being, or someone is going to reborn, someone is going to be reborn like a human being. Someone is on his deathbed, right? At this moment, karma is there. According to karma, if he is having Vedic karma, that means Garuka karma, it has to be come first, right? Garuka karma means 5 heinous karma like that, parasite, killing parents like this, and then killing arahant and shedding blood on the Buddha, and then creating dispute among monks like that, right? There are 5 heinous karmas. Also, someone is, has accumulated or attained in Asta Samapatti or Deshana like that, who is accumulated lots of that kind of higher level of wholesome, attainments. And then this kind of Vedic karma who has, accumulated, at this point, it comes first because of Garuka karma. Other than, if in the absence of Vedic karma, I mean Garuka karma, and then the asana karma. Asana karma is there. That means proximate death, right? Karma. It's very close to his life. He has done kind of good kusala or akusala karma. So by Dr. Buddhima, when someone is very close to die, his family members or relatives used to call for monks to come and, chant Pirisutras because of, and then he can have kind of good wholesome thoughts. So that's why they used to do like that. In the absence of asana karma, and then Achina karma, that means habitual, karma is there. Habitual karma means he who has done good or bad, activities throughout of his lives. In the absence of Garuka karma, Asana karma, and then Achina karma, and then Katata is there, right? It's a casual, simple activities without having very important, the volitions or thoughts, just who has done. The katata karma just there. Anyway, and then after this karma, and then this person is very close to now die, right? And then karma nimitta is there. Karma nimitta is there in his mind. Karma nimitta means actually who may see, the flowers. This person, offered flowers every day to the Buddha. Also, who has given or offered dana to Mahasangha. And then the common nimitta is there, who may see flowers and then, chanting and then reciting stanzas or gathas, lots of things who can see or who can, hear, etc. Common nimitta. Someone has violated rules, that means killing or stealing, and then who may see, sharp knives or, kind of lamentations, right? Those are kind of sounds who may see or voice, who may, heard, right? Anyway, the common nimitta, and then who may have, have gati nimitta. Gati nimitta means where to go. This person has done lots of meritorious deeds in his life, right? And then who may have kind of gati nimitta, going to heaven and things. Someone is, asking him, come and join us with flowers and things like that. Also, according to gati nimitta, this person has done lots of bad things, so unwholesome activities, definitely who may see, flame and things like that, right? After this karma, karma nimitta and gati nimitta, that means karma, a symbol of karma, and then hints of the destiny of karma, the gati, karma nimitta and gati nimitta. After this kind of, procedure, and then who may have actually at that time that kind of thought process, who may experience with thought process, that means the bhavanga chitta is interrupted. That means bhavanga process is interrupted with kind of thoughts. These thoughts come and arises and passes, right? After that, manodvarajana, that means mind or consciousness, arises and passes away. After that, this is very important, psychological stages are there, that means we call as javana. Normally there are 7 javanas, right? And then here, because of its weaknesses, and then 5 javanas are there. At this point, the person who is coming close to die is having kind of experiences, his, some recordings who has, kept in his consciousness. Anyway, but these javanas are so weak, who can't, create any kind of reproductive powers. Anyway, it's a kind of, it is creating kind of regulations for next lives. And then after that, tadalamba, thoughts or consciousness is there. That means registration or regulations for next life. And then after that, this is a kind of, procedure with the dying persons. And then what we are calling of the Chutichitta, the last thought moment. Mr. Rajakurupu, some traditionally people have kind of idea, Chutichitta, last thought moment of death person, is having all kind of responsibilities of his next life. That means whatever the thoughts come into his Chutichitta or last thought moment, it, take all kind of responsibilities of for his next life. Anyway, according to that explanation, javana process or tadalambana, that means the regulations consciousness, this kind of procedure have kind of responsibilities for his next life, not only with the last thought moments we are going to talk about to have responsibilities for next lives. Anyway, after this Chutichitta, last thought moment, that's the last thought moment of Bhavanga, and then arises and then passes away. And then, simultaneously, the Patisandhi Chitta, relinking consciousness is there. This is what at the beginning called as birth, new birth.
That was the whole process of the very last chitta, how it links to the very next birth, Venerable Sir mentioned. So with that, I would like to ask you, Sir, now actually when we take a person...
No, first I would like to respond to what he said.
Yes, sir.
So, you also mentioned about the Chutichitta, the last thought. Last thought is very important. And it is the last thought, we can go to the details later about the javanas and so on, but that is the thing that will decide how you are going to be born. And sometimes, Venerable Sir, it sounds a little unfair, because a person may have done a lot of good in balance, maybe 90% good and 10% unwholesome actions. But if the last thought happens to be a thought where there is regret about something bad he has done, or the thought comes what he had done, then he will be born in a not very favorable position. But fortunately, that is not going to last forever. After some time, the good karma will emerge, he will get out of those sad surroundings. Now, it is important, Venerable Sir, that you should have good thoughts at the time of passing away. Now, some may ask the question, Buddhima, that if you are unconscious, now most of the persons just before, most of the persons, not all, most of the persons when they are passing away, they get into a state of unconsciousness from a physical angle. Doctors would say he is unconscious. But according to the Dhamma, the mind continues to function. The mind is still functioning. So there are thoughts. Even if you are unconscious, there are thoughts. So that is why, as you said quite rightly, Venerable Sir, they are your habitual thoughts. If most of your thoughts are of a wholesome nature, the chances, but not absolutely correct, chances are that you will have a good thought at the time that you are passing away.
Certainly.
So therefore, the purification of the mind is also a very important aspect. If your mind is purified, you see, free of defilement most of the time, the chances are that at the time of death also, you will have a good thought to take to the next life. Now, of course, you get a glimpse of where you are going also. Now, the Venerable Sir, you mentioned about the 7 javanas. Now, there, of course, that is the way you come to the 7th javana, that is the last bit of the last thought moment. Thought moment. So, it is important that we adjust ourselves, having that in mind, that you see, but the last thought will come, and therefore we must purify our minds so that we will be prepared for the final thought to be of a good nature. Yes. Then you are going to ask something else.
Yes, with that I would like to ask you now, when you consider the evidences of rebirth, when you consider the people who do a lot of meditation, they achieve the fourth jhana. And there's an ability for these people to come up with certain experiences of their past lives, and they keep telling this. So what is the relationship of this when you consider rebirth?
That's a good question that you asked, Buddhima, because there are various kinds of evidence to support the doctrine of rebirth, that life doesn't come to an end with death. But this is something, those things are of a theoretical nature. They are not full proof. But here, if a person gets into the fourth jhana, and according to my recollection, Venerable Sir, not everybody who has gone into the fourth jhana can see their previous births, but some can. And if you see your previous births, then that is conclusive evidence, because you have seen it. Experiential knowledge, you can call it. You have experience. And there also, it is said that you must be mentally at a certain level to experience that. Because now, Venerable Sir, if you see a birth in which you are a snake, now you may not be able to bear that up, because at a certain level of material level, whether the emotions of a snake, you see how that will be in terms of a human being. So it is said, I have read somewhere, that in India, sometimes they conduct certain courses for you to get into the fourth jhana, where you will be able, some of them will be able to see their previous lives. And they are trained also in this aspect, that when you see your previous births, sometimes in very difficult circumstances, that you are able to bear it. You see, otherwise it can become a mental shock. So this is also another aspect that we have to remember, you see. So this last thought, as you quite rightly mentioned, is very important, and we must be, that is if we want to get that kind of evidence. But earlier we mentioned, in our discussion, that sometimes you have a feeling that you have met certain people before. Now it is said, Venerable Sir, that some tourists who had gone to India, and they were going through an old castle. When they were going through an old castle, one person said, I have been here before. I have been here before. And he went through the castle, these are recorded things, and he looked at a point and said, there should be a door here. They said, there is no door here, this is a ball. Then they made inquiry from very senior people associated with that castle. And then they were told that there was actually a door there, but it had been closed up now. So there are things like that. Some persons have gone and they go to near a certain place and they say, no, this place is very familiar to me, because there had been an accident here. You see, there was a police station close by, but police station was there. But they investigate to see that the police station had been there earlier, but had been subsequently shifted to somewhere else. So these are also kinds of evidence that come. But of course, if you get to the fourth jhana and see your previous lives, of course, that is convincing evidence.
And with that, actually, I would like to ask our Venerable, we were talking about the Noble Eightfold Path, the golden path which is laid before us. And actually, with that, people need to realize that they are fortunate being born as human beings, and realize that within this lifespan, we need to cultivate good deeds, we need to cultivate good actions, and that is how we need to realize ultimate goal, the supreme bliss, nirvana. So I would like to ask our Venerable Sir, what is the message that you would like to give to the audience as to how they can start practicing this golden path that is laid before us?
As I mentioned before, Dr. Buddhima, first of all, we have to realize how this life important is, especially being a human. By knowing this truth, we have to start with being a virtuous person. As a monk, as a mother, as a father, as a wife or husband, whoever, just we have to be virtuous people. At the very beginning, just we have to start with that. So that's why the Buddha explained us, Sile patittaya naro sapanyo chittam panyancha bhavayang. The person who is wise, just he's going to start with who has to be disciplined first. And then therefore, everybody, please try your best to be a virtuous person. If you can't, follow 5 precepts together, at least just one by one, just start, and then all together you may follow, right, in your, in your future. Anyway, be a virtuous person, and then this Dana, Sila, Bhavana. Generosity, morality, and meditation. Dana means, of course, is generosity, but still start with your family members. There's, some words, charity begins at homes, right? You have to start with your family members. Respect your parents. Respect your, wife's husband, so on. And then you may feel, my house is like a heaven, right? And then just continue towards other human beings who are living in this society. Wherever you go, just have to be a kind and nice person because of your, just a very kind attitude. By practicing this way, and then start with Dana, Sila, Dana, generosity, also Sila, and then Bhava, meditation. When we talk about meditation, of course, I have to invite people to continue, Majjhima Patipada, right understanding, Sammaditthi, right understanding. Right understanding of what? Right understanding of Chatusacca. Of course, there are 2 ways of just right understanding. Kammassa Kata Sammaditthi and then Chatusacca or Vipassana Sammaditthi. When we talk about Kammassa Kata Sammaditthi, of course, just think about your own life. According to Upadisampatti, see about yourself going to a mirror. Just you can say you are so beautiful. I am not talking about your color or your appearance. Still, you are so healthy. Think about that. Because of your past good karma, just you got this human life. By knowing this truth, and then you have to continue your, virtuous life, right? And then Kammassa Kata Sammaditthi, if I'm going to violate any rules, that means definitely it follow me. If I'm going to follow good deed, definitely it follow, me as well. By knowing the truth, just have to be a virtuous person. At the same time, just try your best to follow, what is right and what is wrong. This is what first cause of beginning of this, lesson. And then if I'm going to say dukkha means unsatisfactoriness anyway, right? Just with your own bodily pains and sorrow, just understand and then respect it. Taking your own life as an example, just respect everybody, and then you understand everything is dukkha, but not to cry. We are not going to invite anyone to cry, but to know the truth of this sansaric journey or this life, and then so on. And then you are supposed to continue right understanding, Sammaditthi and Samma Sankappa, right concept, and so forth, right? Like that.
True enough, Venerable Sir. Actually, with that, I would like to give a small message. Dhammo have rakkati dhammachari. One who lives by the Dhamma is always protected by the Dhamma. So if we can cultivate good deeds, if we can actually start it off from today. If we think for ourselves that we can do something and we can start realizing things as they are, that is very much important. So the golden path, as I mentioned, is right before us. So what we need to think is, we need to start taking the path and start following in this path, in this golden path, and we will be able to realize the ultimate golden bliss, which is nirvana. So with that, we would conclude our discussion today, and my most veneration goes to Dr. Venerable Mirise Dhammika Thera and Mr. Raja Kurupul for joining us. Thank you very much, sir. So with that, we would conclude our discussion on Beyond the Vision today, and would like to remind you all, if you have your queries, you can them forward to us. You can give us an email on beyondthevision.tv@gmail.com. That is the email address that you can contact us, and of course you can send your queries to us. And with that, would like to wish you all a very good day, and may the Noble Triple Gem bless you. Samma Sambuddha Saranai.